Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Puja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Puja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Shtoter Shtata Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace. Abhay Charnadavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru Sri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki. Hare Krishna, everybody. We'd like to welcome all of our esteemed guests. And we'd like to welcome Chandrika. Happy to have you so. Miss Lot in Bhagavatam class. What is your name, Miss? Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming. So today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 4, Canto 4, creation of the fourth order, chapter number 24, text number 8, and let's see, is there purport to 8? 8, and 8, 9, and 10. So what we'll do is I'll read 8 and 9, and then we will do 10 responsively. For we begin, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrita Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Adirayet Nastapreshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Shevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavadina Ishtaki. Hare Krishna. Okay, text number 8. I'm just going to read it. We're not going to repeat it. Then we're going to do 9, and I'm going to read it, not going to repeat it, and we're going to do 10. We'll repeat that one, okay? Havirdana Davirdani Vidurasutta Satsutan Barhi Shadam Gayam Shukam Krishnam Satyam Gitarvitam. Translation. Havirdana, the son of Maharaj Antardana, had a wife named Havirdani, who gave birth to 6 sons named Barishat, Gaya, Shukla, Krishna, Satya, and Jitavrata. Next verse. Barishat Sumabhago Havirdhanai Prajapati Kriya Kandeshu Nishnato Yogeshu Chakurudva. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, Havirdhana's very powerful son named Barishat was very expert in performing various kinds of fruitive sacrifices. and he was also expert in the practice of mystic yoga. By his great qualifications, he became known as Prajapati. Purport. In the beginning of creation, there were not many living entities, and consequently, the very powerful living entities or demigods were appointed as Prajapatis in order to beget children and increase the population. There are many Prajapatis. Brahma, Daksha, and Manu are sometimes known as Prajapatis. And Barishat, the son of Havirdana, became one of them. Next verse. Okay. Significant purport. We'll do this one together. Yasyedam deva yajanam anuyagyam vitanvataha prachinagrahi kusharasid ashtritam vasudatalam yasyedam deva yajanam anuyagyam vitanvataha prachinagrahi kusharasid ashtritam vasudatalam yasyedam deva yajanam anuyagyam vitanvataha prachinagrahi kusharasid ashtritam vasudatalam yasyedam deva yajanam anuyagyam vitanvataha prachinagrahi kusharasid ashtritam vasudatalam yasyedam deva yajanam anuyagyam vitanvataha prachinagrahi kusharasid ashtritam vasudatalam. Word for word. Yasya, whose? Idam, this. Deva yajanam, satisfying the demigods by sacrifices. Anuyagyam, continually sacrificing. Vitanvataha, executing. Prachina agrihi, keeping the kusha grass facing toward the eastern side. Kushayi, the kusha grass. Asit, remained. Ashtratam, scattered. Vasudatalam, all over the surface of the globe. Translation. Maharaj Barishat executed many sacrifices all over the world. He scattered kusha grass and kept the tops of the grasses pointed eastward. Please repeat. Maharaj Barishat executed many sacrifices all over the world. He scattered kusha grasses and kept the tops of the grasses pointed eastward. Purport. As stated in the previous verse, Kriya Kandeshu Nishtanata, Maharaj Barishtat dived very deeply into the fruitive activities of sacrifice. This means that as soon as he finished one yajna in one place, he began performing another yajna in the immediate vicinity. At the present moment, there is a similar need to perform Sankirtan yajna all over the world. The Krishna consciousness movement has started performing Sankirtan yajna in different places, and it has been experienced that wherever Sankirtan yajna is performed, many thousands of people gather and take part in it. Imperceptible auspiciousness achieved in this connection should be continued all over the world. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement should perform Sankirtan yajnas one after another, so much so that all the people of the world will either jokingly or seriously chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And thus they will derive the benefit of cleansing the heart. The holy name of the Lord, Hare Nama, is so powerful that whether it is chanted jokingly or seriously, the effect of vibrating this transcendental sound will be equally distributed. It is not possible at the present moment to perform repeated yajnas as Maharaj Barishtat performed, but it is within our means to perform Sankirtan yajna, which does not cost anything. One can sit down anywhere and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If the surface of the globe is overflooded with the chanting of Hare Krishna, overflooded with the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the people of the world will be very, very happy. Beautiful purport. One of my favorite purports in the Bhagavatam, actually. Om Jnana Tamarandya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Vidati Swapadantikam Vandayam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vrindavanishwari Vishubhana Shruti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namaste Girirajaya Shri Govardhana Namane Shesha Klesha Nashaya Parmanandanayane Jaya. And so usually if it's the last minute, it's like an hour. I can read the verse, but this is the absolute last minute. I've just read the verse first time, which is okay. Because we got a nice purport. I'm sure the Prabhupada has given us everything we really need to say. So we're speaking of the importance of executing yajna. And it should be understood that there's a difference between fruitative yajnas, or yajnas for material benefit, and yajnas for spiritual benefit. We want to perform yajnas in the sense that we're trying to please Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes that there's sacrifice in the mode of goodness, sacrifice in the mode of passion, and sacrifice in the mode of ignorance. So sacrifice in the mode of ignorance is not favorable for deriving any benefit. We'll check out that part of the Bhagavad Gita actually. Go ahead and read it. We're in the 18th chapter here. There you go. So this is just talking about different things. So Arjuna asks Krishna, he says, some people recommend working and some people recommend giving up work. And Krishna is explaining that certain activities should be given up and certain activities should be engaged in. So activities on the spiritual platform should always be engaged in. This is the difference between the Bhakti Yogi and the Karma Yogi or the Mayavadi, is because the Bhakti Yogi, he's always engaging in activities, but not material activities. He's engaging in spiritual activities. Spiritual activities consisting of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, etc. So the dry renunciate or the impersonalist, he's simply trying to renounce material activity altogether. So someone has to come to the platform of sannyas, karma sannyas, meaning they are giving up all material activity. They're ceasing to act in any way, shape, or form materially, and they engage their mind in studying Vedanta and understanding what is matter and what is spirit. However, this is extraordinarily difficult because we all have a certain propensity to act in the world, guna and karma. And because of this propensity, those who are prematurely in the renounced order, when they're not in bhakti yoga, they don't know how to act. They become antsy to perform activities. Therefore, they come back down to the material platform and begin engaging in philanthropic activities. This is the existence of someone who is attempting to perform impersonal yoga or impersonal meditations. because they have no activity, they have no service to God. So certain groups of spiritualists explain that once one is on a certain level, they give up everything, including chanting, including deity worship, including the activities of bhakti yoga. They consider those fruitive activities, and therefore they've given them up. Of course, they can never taste the holy name. They can actually never taste the nectar of the holy name, because one of the offenses to chanting the holy name is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda. So one who just considers chanting Hare Krishna another prayer, another sacrifice, another ritual that we do, that's an offense. And one who thinks like that can never actually taste the holy name. In fact, Lord Chaitanya, when he was beginning to exhibit his ecstasies as a pure devotee of the Lord, of course, he's God himself in the guise of a pure devotee. But Lord Chaitanya, while he was a child, he was living the pastimes of a pandit, of a great scholar. And Lord Chaitanya used to go defeat many scholars, and people would actually see him and they would run from him. You know, Mukunda Datta would sometimes see Lord Chaitanya and run, because he knew that Lord Chaitanya, Nimai Pandit, was going to go challenge him and start, a debate. And this is what was going on in Navadvip at the time of Lord Chaitanya's birth. It was a very jubilant place of scholarship where great debaters and thinkers would come together, and rather than fight, they would debate. So this is the situation at Navadvip at the time of Lord Chaitanya's birth. And so Lord Chaitanya was the greatest scholar of all scholars, Nimai Pandit. In fact, the famous story of the great Digvijay, Keshava Kashmiri, who had defeated scholars all over India. He came into Navadvip demanding to defeat all the scholars, and he came to the bank of the Ganga, and there was little Nimai Pandit, no more than 12 years old. And Nimai Pandit very respectfully told him, "I would like to hear some poetry, speak some poetry." And so Keshava Kashmiri, actually he said, "Poetry glorifying the Ganges." So Keshava Kashmiri immediately spoke 100 verses right off his tongue, made them just right coming from his intellect. He was able to create these perfect poetic verses, 100 of them, glorifying the Ganges. Very impressive. If I told you to make a poem right now, could you do it? Any of us make one rhyme up in our head. Keshava Kashmiri was doing this in very elaborate Sanskrit. But Lord Chaitanya was a Shrutidar, because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, he remembered everything he ever heard. And so Lord Chaitanya said, "Very nice, but the 60th verse, I found a problem." And Lord Chaitanya analyzed that verse, broke it down, and totally defeated this Keshava Kashmiri. And he was so bewildered, he went home and he prayed to Saraswati. He said, "Why did you, betray me like this? I've been worshiping you. How could you do this to me? I'm your devotee, and I was defeated by this small child." And then Saraswati appeared to him and said, "Actually, this small child is my Lord, Narayan, Krishna himself. Therefore, my instruction to you is to surrender to him." So Lord Chaitanya was a great scholar, but when Lord Chaitanya, his father, left his body, Jagannath Mishra left his body due to the imminent understanding that Lord Chaitanya is going to take sannyas and leave home. That suffering caused him to leave his body. Lord Chaitanya, as per the tradition at the time, did a pilgrimage to Gaya, a very holy place in India, that people visit a family member to perform the Shraddha ceremony. So Lord Chaitanya, and in Gaya, he came in contact with Ishvara Puripad, his spiritual master, the disciple of Madhavendra Puri. And so Ishvara Puripad, playing the role of the guru of Lord Chaitanya, awakened this love for God in Lord Chaitanya's heart. And he explained that you're so much of a fool, actually told Lord Chaitanya, you're so much of a fool that you can never understand Vedanta or any of these scriptures. Therefore, you should simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Lord Chaitanya began to chant Hare Krishna, and these ecstatic symptoms began to manifest in Lord Chaitanya's body. And so Lord Chaitanya went back to Ishvara Puri and said, "What kind of mantra is this? I can't speak, I can't walk, I'm shivering, my hairs are standing on end, and tears are on my eyes like torrents of rain. What kind of mantra is this?" Ishvara Puri said, "This is the success of all spiritual life. This is prema bhakti, or love for God, Mahabhav in Lord Chaitanya's case." So Lord Chaitanya, he was an ecstatic scholar, and then he became an ecstatic devotee. And so as Lord Chaitanya came back to Navadvip, he was a great scholar even as a child, so he had many students. And he began to teach his students in a very different way. His students would come to class and he would just talk about Krishna. And he would take every Sanskrit syllable and describe how it's actually describing Krishna. And he described how everything we say is actually describing Krishna. This was Lord Chaitanya's meditation. And the students were just mind-boggled because Lord Chaitanya was proving that everything is related to Krishna. This is, of course, these are intimate associates of the Supreme Lord. So Lord Chaitanya in his ecstasy, of course, being the combined form of Radha and Krishna, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahayanya, Lord Chaitanya would sometimes chant the name of the gopis. Gopis, Gopi, Gopi, Gopi. He would chant Lalita, Vishaka, and so forth. And so one of his students asked him, why are you chanting the name of the gopis? You won't get any benefit for chanting the name of the gopis. It's auspicious to chant the name of Radha Krishna, but chanting the name of the gopis, what benefit can you get? And Lord Chaitanya became furious, and he picked up a stick and began to try to beat that student with a stick. Why is that? Because this student was comparing chanting Hare Krishna to one of the ritualistic activities, like an auspicious activity. Chanting Hare Krishna is not an auspicious activity. It's more than just an auspicious activity. Chanting Hare Krishna will give you pure love of God, or prema bhakti. So to consider it on the same level as doing an auspicious activity offered in the Vedas, that is a great offense. And Lord Chaitanya, being the great preceptor and personification of Nam-Bhakti, he fiercely chastised that student. And so that student ran away in great fear because Lord Chaitanya, he was a very tall personality. And I wouldn't want him to be angry at me. So these students, they were furious. He went back to his other Brahmin friends. He said, who's this Nimai Pandit thinking he can beat me, thinking he can chase me with a stick? I am also a Brahmin. Why does he think he's better than me? So they became very furious at Nimai Pandit and began to blaspheme him, which is a great offense, to blaspheme Lord Chaitanya. And so Lord Chaitanya realized, I've come here to deliver these fools, but in my attempt to deliver them, they're throwing it in my face. They're not being delivered. So Lord Chaitanya decided, I will take sannyas, because everybody must bow down to a sannyasi. So Lord Chaitanya decided that he will take sannyas. And to the great grief of the residents of Navadvip, many were very upset, especially Mother Sachi. Actually, when she heard that Lord Chaitanya was going to take sannyas, she fainted. And then just to cut Lord Chaitanya's hair, it took days, because the barber couldn't actually, it's really funny, he couldn't do the haircut because he was crying too hard, and he'd have to stop because he was cutting Lord Chaitanya's hair, which was so beautiful, because Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, is known as who? Keshava. He with very beautiful hair. So it was a great horrendous event to see Lord Chaitanya take sannyas for the residents of Navadvip. And Lord Nityananda was specifically very, very upset. Lord Nityananda was furious. Because actually Lord Nityananda was a Paramahamsa. He's beyond any sense. Of course, Lord Nityananda considered Lord Chaitanya beyond sannyas. And so Lord Chaitanya decided he was going to go to Vrindavan after taking sannyas. He said, I'm going to Vrindavan. So he was in so much ecstasy. His elevated Krishna consciousness was so great that he began to walk toward Vrindavan. And Lord Nityananda was taking him, we're going to Vrindavan now, we're going to Vrindavan. But actually Lord Nityananda was taking him to Shantipur. But he was telling him the whole time, we're going to Vrindavan. And Lord Chaitanya is so sweet. He's like, are we in Vrindavan? And Lord Nityananda is going, yes, we're in Vrindavan right now. This is the Jamuna, you see, but it's actually just the Ganges. This is the Jamuna. And Lord, wow, the Jamuna. And Lord Chaitanya jumps in. And then they end up at Advaita Acharya's house. And Lord Chaitanya goes, you tricked me. We're not in Vrindavan. And so Lord Nityananda said, no, we are in Vrindavan, because this part of the Ganges is considered, the other side of the river is called the Yamuna. So I wasn't lying to you. So then they went into Advaita Acharya's house and they had a 3-day Kirtan festival. Because Sachimata was so heartbroken, she wanted to cook for Lord Chaitanya one last time. So she came to Shantipur, which is like 20 miles out of Navadvip or Mayapur. she came to Shantipur and she began to cook this massive feast for the devotees. Incredible feast at Advaita Acharya's house, and they would perform kirtan all day and all night, and they would have a feast. Like it was like a sadhu sangha type situation they would have. And, with the Panchatattva, of course, so extraordinarily ecstatic. And so then on the condition that Mother Sachi put forward, Lord Chaitanya decided not to go to Vrindavan, to make his headquarters Vrindavan. He decided to make his headquarters Jagannath Puri, because Jagannath Puri is much closer to West Bengal than Vrindavan is. And so the news of Lord Chaitanya could be given to Sachimata, because many devotees perform pilgrimage from Jagannath Puri to Vrindavan. So in this way, Lord Chaitanya took the sannyas order of life. That's a different story, but we were speaking of the holy name not being a fruit of activity. There's other stories in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in that regard. So Lord Chaitanya, he takes sannyas and he began to mass propagate the holy name. And of course, he taught that the holy name, the goal of the holy name is prema bhakti, not just auspiciousness. It's not why we're chanting the holy name. If we chant the holy name in that consciousness, we'll never taste it. We'll never taste the real holy name. And so Lord Chaitanya deemed one certain individual the supreme chanter of the holy name. Who's that individual? Jai Omar, first person. Haridas Thakur. He is the Nama Acharya, Haridas Thakur. So there's one other story in this connection about Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was the greatest chanter of the holy name. He would chant 192 rounds a day. That's 22 hours of chanting. Of course, it said that he would finish in 18 hours. He was expert. He could chant fast and still hear the mantra. So he would chant 1/3 of his rounds very loudly, 1/3 of his rounds very quietly, and 1/3 of his rounds in his head. But we chant only 16 rounds, so we chant 16 rounds audibly. That's what Srila Prabhupada recommended. So, yes, Haridas Thakur, he was the highest stage. He was at the highest stage of Prema Bhakti. And there's one particular story in this instance of one Brahmin named Gopala Chakravarti. Gopala Chakravarti was a very envious Smartha Brahmin. And so he got in one conversation with Haridas Thakur because Haridas Thakur was expounding upon the glories of the holy name. And he was explaining how just by chanting the holy name one time in Namabhas, one can liberate themselves from all sinful reactions accumulated over millions and millions of births by chanting the holy name one time. So we understand that there's 3 stages of chanting. There's namaparad, which is chanting with the offenses. So we're not chanting attentively. We're chanting with all kinds of material desires. We're blaspheming the devotees. We're not following the orders of our spiritual master. We're not following our ashram. We're blaspheming the Vedic literatures, which is, most people don't blaspheme the Vedic literatures, but not reading, not ignoring the Vedic literatures, this type of thing. We're living on this offensive platform. Therefore, our chanting is not as effective as it could be. And so at that stage, it's very hard to have any effect in our chanting. And then, of course, there's the Namabhas stage, where someone is very seriously trying to negate their offenses. And Namabhas has another form also, that if someone is in great distress and just calls out Krishna, or even accidentally says Krishna, that's also Namabhas, because it wasn't offensive. So the Namabhas chanting purifies one from, it can actually give one liberation. But is that the goal? Liberation is not the goal of chanting Hare Krishna. So Haridas Thakur was expounding that simply by chanting Hare Krishna one time with Namabhas in this middle stage of chanting, one can achieve all success in terms of liberation. And so this Smartha Brahmin became very furious. How could you say such a thing? We are doing so many yagyas, we're doing so many rituals, we're meditating for so many years, we're studying so much Shastra, and you are saying that simply by chanting Hare Krishna one time, one can become liberated? And so he challenged Haridas Thakur in this way. And Haridas Thakur immediately spoke back in terms of the Shastra. He said, this is the conclusion of the Shastra. And of course, the famous example is Ajamil, who was, a very good Brahmin as a child, but he became attracted to a prostitute, and then he engaged in horrible sinful activities to maintain his situation with his prostitute, and he was doing all kinds of black market things, and it's indicated that a lot of really bad stuff was going on. And his last son, he was an old man, but his last son's name was Narayan. And so at the time of his death, he was dying, and the Yamadutas appeared, the agents of Yamaraj, to take him to the hellish planets. And as they were appearing, he yelled, "Narayan, Narayan, Narayan!" And immediately the Vishnu Dutas appeared. He was not calling for Lord Narayan, but he was calling for his son. But immediately the Vishnu Dutas appeared, the angels, the associates of Lord Vishnu appeared, and they had a very intense discussion with the Yamadutas about why this Ajamil should not be taken to hell. And of course, the Yamadutas are powerless to do anything against the Vishnu Dutas, and the Vishnu Dutas won. And the Yamadutas were very depressed. Oh my God, we didn't do our job. Who is this that can override our power? Yamaraj is our boss. He's the man. So they went to Yamaraj and they said, what's the deal here? These guys come and they steal a Jamil away, and they start speaking philosophy higher than what we know. And we were under the impression that you are the supreme. Actually, they tell Yamaraj. And they said, we're actually considering committing suicide because we don't understand what's going on here. And so then Yamaraj tells them, no, I'm not the supreme. Lord Vishnu is the supreme. And anybody who has Lord Vishnu's name on their tongue, you are not to approach. Similarly, if we have the tilak of the Lord shall not approach us. Tulsi leaves, the Yamadutas can't approach us. So Vaishnavas are very, very, very auspicious. So yes, this Gopala Chakravarti, he began to argue with Haridas, and Haridas proved that that this is a fact. This just chanting Namabhas, one achieves all liberation. So then Haridas said, and furthermore, who even cares if you become liberated? This is not our goal. This is not the actual result of chanting Hare Krishna. The actual result of chanting Hare Krishna is prema, pure love for God, which is beyond all liberation. It's the symptoms of bhakti. Actually, the pure devotional service has 6 symptoms. It's so far ahead of any other spiritual practice. Bhakti mama vijananti yavanyashtasmi tatmita tadamam tatmito gyatas vishate tadanantaram. The only way you can achieve me is bhakti, Krishna says. One can know me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of God, and only by bhakti yoga. And when one is thus purified by such bhakti yoga, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So Krishna confirms that I am unknown by any other process but bhakti. It's the only way to understand the personality of Godhead. Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitamita Mutamam Pratyaksavagimam Dharmam Sushukam Kartamavyayam. It's the Rajavidyam, it's the king of all knowledge, it's the secret of all secrets, the purest knowledge. It gives direct perception of the self by realization, and is the perfection of religion because it gives one direct perception of the self by realization. And it's everlasting and joyfully performed. So this bhakti is beyond all other types of religion, types of spiritual practice. And so Haridas says, no, this chanting Hare Krishna, the goal is prema. That's the actual goal of chanting Hare Krishna, not this auspiciousness, not just, mundane auspiciousness. And pure devotional service is described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that there's these 6 symptoms that appear in pure devotional service. And the first 2 that manifest, if one is performing pure devotional service properly, just sadhana bhakti, I don't have any bhava or ecstatic emotions, but if you just simply surrender to the Guru and practice this process properly, meaning you're chanting, you're following, you're performing the process nicely, 2 symptoms arise immediately. One of them is Shubhadha. All auspiciousness is bestowed upon you. You're blessed at every step. Just by being sincere and practicing Krishna consciousness, if you're a new bhakta and you walk in the door and you start performing nicely and practicing nicely, you're already beyond liberation. All auspiciousness is bestowed upon you. And kleshagni, all material miseries are relieved. Material misery doesn't exist anymore because you're experiencing this bhakti yoga, at least at the very beginning. So what to speak of these higher levels? We see Sri Krishna Karshani, that's the final symptom of bhakti yoga. That one can control Krishna by this bhakti process, by this chanting Hare Krishna. One can conquer Krishna with love. And of course, one of the symptoms is that bhakti yoga derides the happiness of liberation. Okay, so liberation is nothing for bhakti. So Haridas is explaining this, and this Brahmin becomes very mad. And Haridas says, and if I am wrong, and I declare it that my nose will fall off. Or actually the Brahmin said that. And the Brahmin said, yeah, if I, this is so nonsense that, if I'm wrong, my nose will fall off. And the next day he got leprosy and his nose melted off for his offenses at the lotus feet of Haridas. Can't offend these great Vaishnavas like Haridas Thakur. So, yeah, the point is that chanting Hare Krishna is not just a fruitive activity. So, of course, Maharaj Barishad is executing many sacrifices in a fruitive way. But Srila Prabhupada in the purport is saying that we should perform the Sankirtan Yajna continuously. So we go out on Harinam. Last night was, I don't know, maybe some people were there for last night's program. It was an incredible, unbelievable program last night that we had like 60 people who never heard of Krishna consciousness in a room chanting Hare Krishna. And then, a beautiful talk. My spiritual master gave a beautiful talk. And we had beautiful prasadam, that's the process. We do some chanting, we do some speaking, we do some prasadam. And that is the Sankirtan Yajna. You chant Hare Krishna, you give people prasadam. That's it. This is the way. If you simply engage in this activity of chanting Hare Krishna and giving people prasadam, your life becomes perfect and beautiful. Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatiram Yata. It's the only way in this age of Kali. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. Chant the holy name. Chant the holy name. Chant the holy name. This is the actual Yuga Dharma. And we have to perform it properly. This is the understanding. We don't want to get involved in these offenses. Since I took that route, I didn't even know what I was going to talk about, but we took that route talking about the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and these pastimes. We can understand that we're avoiding this thinking of chanting Hare Krishna as a fruitive activity by proper understanding. So we have to have proper understanding of what is the goal. This is called Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya, and Prayojana. These are the stages of understanding a system of religion. So Sambandha Gyan is understanding our relationship with what it is we're trying to understand. Abhideya is the process of understanding, and Prayojana is the goal of understanding. So if we don't have a proper understanding of the Prayojana, the Abhideya is not right. And the Sambandha Gyan is not right. So before we actually begin the Sambandha Gyan and the Abhideya, we have to understand what is the actual goal. So what is the goal of a Gaudiya Vaishnava? What is our goal? Is that prema? Yeah, what type of prema? Krishna. Prema in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. Mood of gopis, maybe that's your goal. Prema, love in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. This is the goal of a Gaudiya Vaishnava. This is what we're actually thinking about. We don't care about becoming liberated. We don't even really care about understanding all this information about God. Actually, that's considered an impure devotee. It's considered a jnani. He's very, very interested in knowing all about the intricacies and all these things. But the actual devotee, the gopis, they just love Krishna. They just love Krishna. And they're satisfied with their knowledge and realization. Because they're not concerned about how advanced they are. They're just concerned with pleasing Krishna. Therefore, they're the most advanced. They're way more advanced than anybody can imagine. So that's their consciousness. They're simply concerned with pleasing Krishna. And so our goal is to come to that stage of prema bhakti in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. So we should think like that. I mean, we're not going to, we can't go to pretend to be on that level. That's a big mistake, not in any way, shape, or form. We have to follow people who are on that level in this world, like Prabhupada and the Goswamis. Of course, Rupa and Sanatan, they are gopis in the spiritual world. Sanatan Goswami is Lavanga Manjari, and Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari, and Sarup Damodar Goswami is Lalita, and Ramananda Roy is Vishaka. These are all residents of the spiritual world. And Lord Chaitanya is Srimati Radharani. So these are residents of Goloka Vrindavan incarnated in the material world to teach us this. But we understand that they were not imitating or pretending they were on that level. They were extremely serious sadhakas. The external manifestation of such a devotee who's on the level of this Gopi Bhav, what is the external manifestation? They're chanting Hare Krishna. They're following regulative principles. They're going to temples. They're performing deity worship. They're doing all the activities of a sadhaka bhakti, of a sadhana bhakti, sadhana bhakta, a vaidhi bhakta. Internally, because of their external practice, and of course they were on that level already, but as an example, because of their external practice, internally they're dancing with Krishna and cooking for Krishna. And internally they're experiencing the spiritual world. But externally, they're acting like extraordinary sadhakas. Prabhupada was on the highest level of bhakti, there's no doubt. No doubt at all. Prabhupada was the perfect sadhaka, absolutely perfect sadhaka. Absorbed all the time in the performance of devotional service. So that level is achievable, but we have to follow the process nicely, according to those who are on that level, which is, first off, we have rules and regulations. We follow these rules and regulations. We perform the process of Vaidhi Bhakti nicely, and then we can come to the stage of Raga Anuga Bhakti. Raga Anuga Bhakti means, Anuga means follower, and Raga means those who have spontaneous love. So Raga Anuga means Bhakti in pursuance of those who have spontaneous love, which is the residents of Vrindavan, Krishna's friends, the cowherd boys, the gopis, Krishna's parents, everything in Goloka Vrindavan in the highest rung of the spiritual world. So we should understand that this is our prayojana. This is this Shuddha Bhakti, this pure love for God. And that the process for getting it is in pursuance of those who already have it. So our Abhideya is following the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. Following the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. This is the actual Abhideya, or the process by which we can actually attain this highest goal of love. So we have to follow Srila Prabhupada, who is the representative of Rupa Goswami. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's pranam mantra says, he who is never in deviation from the instructions of the Goswamis of Vrindavan. And so Prabhupada is of course, the disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta who didn't deviate from him in any way. So we understand this is the bona fide Krishna consciousness movement. This is the bona fide movement of Lord Chaitanya. And for one who has the eyes to see it, this is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And if you actually read the Chaitanya Charitamrita and you understand what the devotees are doing, you realize actually all this it's all happening right here. The devotees are here, the holy name is here, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are here, and Krishna are here, Prasadam is here. Great personalities are here preaching the Krishna consciousness movement in this world. And so in that way, if you actually do this process nicely, you actually begin to have a transcendental vision of devotees. Because devotees are not normal people. That's also an offense to the holy name. To consider a Vaishnava an average person. That's an offense. Because Vaishnavas are not normal. Vaishnavas are transcendental. They're in the internal potency. And you have that vision to see all these people are engaged in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's devotees that are serving, Mother Tsunami is serving Nitai Gaur, giving them prasadam right now. It's the real thing. It's happening, but we don't have the eyes to see. And actually, what's really happening is very intense. So, when I was in LA, there was one brahmachari, Devavrata Prabhu, really incredible devotee. So, in the stratosphere of Krishna consciousness, a brahmachari, really quite amazing devotee. And I spoke with him a few times. I was just seeing his the way he actually sees the senior devotees and the devotees, the brahmacharis. It's just I've never seen it. It actually was like just being around him for like 2 seconds was like just change happened to me. I've seen like he really sees these devotees with transcendental vision. He really respects them and sees them with so much reverence. All the devotees. I'm no one, like compared to he's distributing books like all over the country. So see him, and I, of course, was happy to see such a nice Vaishnava, and he immediately pays his obeisances to me. And it wasn't like just ritualistic, it was actually really, he put his whole heart into this. And I was just so like, wow. I see him, he was went up to Dravida Prabhu, and he was crying. He was so like happy to see Dravida Prabhu and see this, this exalted Vaishnava. And I was really, it's really amazing to see how much reverence he had for the devotees, because he has very transcendental vision. He has very elevated understanding as to the glory of the Vaishnavas, and see, when he sees the brahmacharis, is seeing the fact that they're attempting to dedicate all their time, energy, and service to Krishna is such an exalted thing, and he sees them with that light and with so much respect and reverence. So I was very much moved by that. And when you read the CC and you chant Hare Krishna unoffensively, you get this transcendental vision of what's actually happening in the Krishna consciousness movement. It is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, and Lord Chaitanya is present with us. And so Prabhupada is saying that we should perform this Sankirtan Yagya. Verse 10. We should perform this Sankirtan Yagya all the time. Verse 10, 2014. Oh, this is the Bhagavad Gita. We should continuously perform the Sankirtan Yagya place after place. So how do we do that? We have to do it properly, do it nicely, do it in pure consciousness. Etanya Vidyamananam Michitam Akutobayam Yoganam Nipranirnatam Harinamanu Kirtanam. If you actually want to do the Sankirtan Yagya nicely, it says it's the doubtless and fearless way to success for all. It's Etanya Vidyamananam Michitam Akutobayam. The doubtless and fearless way to attain success for all is chanting the holy name, following the ways of the great authorities. Whether one is full of material desire or free of material desire, such chanting gives one all perfection. But following in the ways of the great authorities, this is an important factor. We can't just make up how to chant Hare Krishna. There's a proper way to do it. There's a proper way to perform the Sankirtan Yagya. You have to surrender to the great authorities and follow in their footsteps, and you'll achieve the goal. What is that goal? That goal is that prema, and you want to dance with Krishna. I mean, we don't say it outright, but if we do, we understand this is the goal. We want to conquer Krishna with love. What we're trying to do. And if we forget that goal and we're thinking the goal is, nonsense ISKCON politics, then we'll get distracted. We won't taste it. Whatever you think it is, we're going to get distracted, but we should focus on our own spiritual lives. Our goal is to really have this love, this devotion for Krishna, this sweetness in the relationship with Krishna. And we attain that by following those people who have that. The Goswamis and the followers of the Goswamis, namely Srila Prabhupada, and understanding our relationship with Krishna. I've been reading the Harinam Chintamani. Actually, I've read the Harinam Chintamani, but I've been reading a study of the Harinam Chintamani by Sachinanda Maharaj. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur kind of emphatically says this verse, Krishna, I'm your servant. Somehow or another, I've fallen into this ocean of material suffering. Please take me up and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. This is the mood in which we should actually perform kirtan, which I was meditating on that last night in last night's kirtan, which was really ecstatic for some reason. That we're chanting with a mood of understanding this sambandha gyan, that Krishna, I'm your servant. I am your servant, but somehow or another, I've fallen into this material world. Please help me. Please lift me up. Please engage me in your service. This is the proper way to chant Hare Krishna. First, we have to understand where we're at. And then we engage in that chanting process according to the acharyas. And then we attain the goal. And we give that to everybody else by going out and performing activities like we did last night. We do some kirtan. We introduce people to the holy name. We give them prasadam. We give them a talk. There were people last night. People were texting Tatiana last night. My life has changed forever. I can't wait to do this more. This has been the best night of my life. I mean, it's like, wow. That was the power of a one kirtan with all the devotees chanting nicely, one talk by an elevated Vaishnav, and some of the nice prasadam cooked by Mother Sandamani and Bhaktaraj. That's what it takes. So, that's all I have to say. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Realizations? Chandrika, did you raise your hand or did I just call on you?
Well, it was kind of two things. I was pointing over to Darnell, but this real quick. Thank you for a really nice class. Nice to be here. I heard Indrajumna Swami say that the Mahamantra was like from another world, wasn't in this world. So in order for us to not get caught into the, fruitive action of, and in order to...
Can you speak up as a tad?
Sorry. In order to connect with prema, which is out of this world, we have to get out of the fruitive action, as you were saying. Yeah. So what is the best way or quickest way? Because obviously we have to get more out of this world than in this world. Yeah. And that seems to be the difficult thing.
What is the best way to get out of fruitive activity consciousness?
Yeah, and get into prema, the other world.
Fruitive activities, we should, the best way, there's a process. The best way is to just give them up, by having realization that we should serve Krishna, and that's the goal. But if we can't, we should dovetail our fruitive desires for the service of Krishna, and in that way purify ourselves to the point of pure devotional service. That's the best way. So we may not be chanting on the Shuddha level, the pure level, but we're still chanting. So the Namabhasa is purifying us. It's giving us Sukriti, and by that Sukriti we can come to the stage of prema or pure love. But it's a process. But we have to follow nicely. If we follow nicely the instructions of the Guru, that's really the whole thing. That's the whole hitch. When we really take Prabhupada's instructions seriously, we've already really finished the game. The game's over. It's just a matter of time. Once we start deviating, then that's a different story. But yeah, once we follow nicely, because we've come in contact with the, Yuga Acharya. We come in contact with Prabhupada's books. We come in contact with Prabhupada's representatives. So that's it. That's the real thing. We've had the opportunity to learn how to do this right. And, taking a spiritual master is not just, people think of it as kind of like keeping a pet or something, but that's why we should really study nicely and have some realization that actually taking a guru, there's an element of love there. I know for me, in just my experience, that it's the greatest inspiration in Krishna consciousness is the desire to please Guru and Krishna. That love for the spiritual master is not a fruitive activity. And so when that becomes your motivation to do an activity, then everything else falls away very easily. You are experiencing a higher taste. So there's no fruitive activity. The fruit is to see your guru happy. And I read, there's that really nice book, Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. And you hear like Shambhasundar Prabhu and Malati, they were like into so much craziness, like really craziness. Like I know they were like crazy, but they were really crazy, like into heroin and all kinds of really insane stuff. And then seeing them meet Srila Prabhupada. And, that's such a sweet thing because Prabhupada at that time was so just loving and sweet and family atmosphere with these San Francisco devotees. And then meet Srila Prabhupada totally conquer their heart. And then seeing that they were pure devotees, their whole motivation was just to see Prabhupada happy. And they believed with their whole heart that Krishna was going to help them in every way. And they did amazing things. They met the Beatles, for God's sakes. I mean, it's like unbelievable. And so, yeah, that motivation to see the Guru happy, that'll really move you out of that fruitive place. Thank you for asking. You had something to say, Omar? Oh, Darnell. Oh, Darnell has a question. This is the first.
So it says here we should perform the Sankirtan Yagya all over the world. That so either jokingly or seriously people will chant the mantra. So if jokingly people are chanting, isn't that offensive?
No, that's namabas.
Okay.
Yeah. Jokingly chanting is namabasa. It's like Ajamil. He was not chanting he was chanting his son's name out of distress. But that's namabasa. So they're getting purified.
So is it different for, say, devotees if we say it's only offense for us if we jokingly chant, but
Yeah, there's some kind of different like factors that apply, like we should always chant very seriously and very nicely. But that when they're chanting like out of a joke, there's not an offensive mentality there. Like they don't really understand what's going on.
okay.
So there's like, it purifies them. I'm a boss. But Shuddhanam, like when you analyze the offenses, the offenses are like blaspheming the devotees. You're blaspheming devotees. That's something you're doing outside of chanting the holy name. Almost all the offenses are outside of chanting. Blaspheming the devotees, considering the names of the demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of Lord Vishnu. Some karmi just doesn't out the street. Oh, great guy, Krishna, man. He doesn't even know anything about Shiva or Vishnu.
Yeah.
And, disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. They don't have spiritual masters. Blaspheming the Vedic literatures. They may be able to do that. Sometimes you hear that. Your religion's a false god, That's blasphemy. They're offensive. Considering the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination, they don't really know. So they're like on this kind of ignorant platform. And so you like bypass some of those offenses and get some Agyata Sukriti. But once you start chanting, then you have to come past these offenses. Nice question. So you can read that Harinam Chintamani. It answers very nicely. Better than I can kind of communicate. Okay, it's 9:00. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Go through our Srimad Bhagavatam ki.